Yep. Good evening, everybody. All right, as we can see, the market does not have any definite direction yet. Whoops, I gotta keep remembering which. But that allows us to kind of anticipate what could be happening. And I say what could be happening because we know the doji rule. We've had two dojis now right on the T-line and the 200 here in the Dow. Stochastics have gone absolutely flat. So we have no idea which way this market's going to move. However, we have a good idea of which way it might move based upon how they open the markets tomorrow. Again, the doji rule, the price or the trend will usually move in the direction of how they open after a doji. So because we, at this point, should already have gotten accustomed to knowing what the different patterns look like, if it opens positive tomorrow, we've got the prospect of a J-hook pattern and the prospect of a bobble breakout. If the markets open lower, pretty good idea that this resistance level at the 50 is still acting as resistance. We're still in a downtrend. You take that same analysis into the NASDAQ. Oh, for crying out loud, how come I keep doing this? You don't know which way they want to take this. We're still hovering right here at the T-line after that hanging man gap down. Still have to get more information as to which direction they want to take this market. If it opens lower, it looks like a blue ice failure. Now, on the markets, now the blue ice failure still would be more indicative of, I wouldn't call it a blue ice failure. Usually a blue ice failure happens pretty quick, whereas this was a downtrend, trend coming back up and then failing. Is it you, Steve, talks about with the DOG rule? Jay, I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Okay, so we can pretty well see that the oils have remained strong because crude oil has remained strong. Which has allowed things like Halliburton to continue to work well. ExxonMobil still working well. ConocoPhillips. This is added conviction. The uptrend is in progress. When they gap it down right to the T-line, then bring it back up, again, that's bouncing off that support level. That we're still in an uptrend. So it doesn't qualify because of how long it took to get back up to the 50 or broke. As far as calling it a blue ice failure, not really. in this case, it was a good, I mean, we were away from it falling through the ice and then coming back up to find the hole they fell through. Why is this thing doing this? It makes you want to kick your grandmother. So blue ice failure would be, again, falling through a support level and then coming back up pretty quick to test out. This is more of a downtrend, a basing, and then up back to the uptrend. But that doesn't matter what you want to call it, John. It's still evident that when they got back up to the 50, they failed. We don't know whether they're doing a J-hook pattern or whether they're going to continue down. That will get much more evidence tomorrow. Let's see what. So right now it looks like the E-minis are trading up a little bit, but that doesn't really mean anything this time of night. So the stochastics are high. Wouldn't that mean there will be a small sell-off? We don't know, Aaron. The stochastics on the YMs aren't in the overbought area yet. And the stochastics on the Dow aren't in the overbought area yet. So right now there's just too much lack of information to tell us which way they're planning to go. Okay. So, don't know where to start here. So I'm going to kind of readdress why the patterns are much more beneficial than just merely an uptrending or downtrending stock. As you can see, a fry pan bottom, no matter which way the market seems to be moving, has disregard for the overall market trend. And the reason for that is because when we see a pattern, it's based upon a buildup of investor sentiment, and that buildup of investor sentiment is not a one-day, two-day reversal. It's a buildup of that investor sentiment. That's what makes the fry pan bottom so, I'm going to say, easy to identify and take advantage of. Why did I type blink? That's not what I wanted. Blend. You can see that fry pan bottom. Make this a little bit bigger. And what do we know about our classic pattern? It's usually a fry pan bottom with a strong price move. Notice where the pullback came to, right smack dab to the 50. And there's your J-hook pattern. What's our prognosis on this one? At least wave 1, wave 2, going into wave 3, which at least gives us a running start that it could head up into this direction. But what do we expect coming out of a fry pan bottom overall? A very strong price move. So anytime I see a pattern setup versus just an uptrending stock, I'm definitely going with the pattern because I know three things are going to happen. One, we've got a much more definable trend direction. Two, the magnitude of that move is going to be much stronger than just a mere uptrending stock in an uptrending or downtrending market. And three, if the market all of a sudden turns definitely south, it usually takes a lot or a little bit longer for the selling to come into a pattern. It gives you more time to get out at a reasonable price. What we want to do is anytime we see bullish confirmation, we start utilizing that information or our other information to tell us there's further upside. When we recommended ADTN, it was based upon this trend kicker signal. Now remember that the kicker signal is your strongest signal, or your strongest reversal signal, if it occurs down here. If it occurs during the trend, it pretty much implies there's going to be more upside. So this is where you can use your 2+2 analysis. You see they've bottomed out in the oversold area. Then you see they have a trend kicker signal, implies more upside. Now you see they've done a doji sandwich through a resistance level, and two resistance levels, the 200 and the 50. That would imply there's more upside. Barry, no, not really. It's just witnessing that pullback and then usually bouncing off the T-line. That's more important. Actually, when you see a pullback and you see they aren't closing below the T-line and you're seeing indecision, your visual analysis should immediately be, they haven't closed below the T-line. They're crawling back up. I'm getting ready to see a J-hook pattern. That was the same scenario for net. When it pulled back after a strong move to the upside, look where they pulled it back to, right smack dab to the T-line. That is your qualifying factor. That's not the right word. That's your confirming factor that this pattern is setting up. ADGI has a gap to fill. It could. But that is the whole reason why you want to go with a pattern. What do we expect coming out of a fry pan bottom? A strong price move. How strong could that price move be? I have no idea. So where is our first projected target? Right about where the fry pan bottom began. That's at the $11 level. Oh, dang. Do this again. So there's our first target. Now, this is how you evaluate, or how I evaluate, whether it's worthwhile getting into a fry pan bottom. If this is going to be a low or slow lethargic move, and coming from here where we can see the fry pan bottom is really setting up, to come back up to this level, if we're looking at a stock where that move might be an 8% move or even a 10% move, I'd rather just wait to see what happens when they break out, if they break out through this level, because that's where the big percent move is going to be. On the other hand, if from right here to right here, in this case was about 40 or 45%, I want to go after it, because even if it fails right here, I've still made a good profit. If you were to buy ADGI tomorrow in positive trading, would you wait until it crosses the 34? Not really. If it opened positive, that would tell me this fry pan bottom is still working. How do you know when to start a fry pan bottom? If you see something like this, nothing. Well, maybe there's a fry pan bottom starting. And nothing. And nothing. Whoops. Now there's further confirmation of the fry pan bottom. So maybe I'm buying on this day. Now, was I scared on this day? Not really. I think that's a green candle. But this is where you put your I want to say, knowledge of candlestick analysis. If you're in a fry pan bottom, first of all, you can see the trajectories starting. So if you're buying in this area and you're anticipating that it could come up to this level, I mean, that's a good percentage move, going from whatever this is, 780 area up to 11. And you can see what was happening. Something's happening in this stock that has nothing in relation to what the market's doing. So I hope that answers the question, Joey. Here's the other one that I think is a very good chart, because we know this is a fry pan bottom, classic pattern. Where would I have started buying here? Well, it didn't become evident until right about in here, but we were at that close to the T line. I'm sorry, the 50. I'd want to see it get through there. Well, the next day it didn't execute. Next day it didn't execute. But on this day, it told us, wait a minute, they're supporting off the 50. I can see what my pattern is. There's my classic pattern. That's why we were recommending it now. Okay, Net has earnings later this week. Does a strong chart such as Net have any meaning in terms of earnings? Not necessarily, but probably. So we were buying today because of this pattern. If the earnings are later in the week and on the day that they're going to announce earnings, they open it and they trade it down, well, that means the people that are in the know are probably following this company a lot closer than we are selling because something's not happening right. So that tells me I usually want to close out. On the other hand, if over here on the day they are earning or announcing earnings, they were going up through the moving averages, I'd probably stay with it because, again, somebody is knowing something, and all we're doing is identifying whether they're buying or selling, knowing that there's going to be an earnings announcement coming up. No, that probably wouldn't even get into the category of a fry pan bottom. I mean, that is kind of observe the obvious, that if you were buying and you saw that candle, that told you whatever you thought was happening isn't happening. But you can also see that it's not dead as far as the fry pan bottom. So if I was buying on this day, I'd watch to see what was happening at the 50 because that's where everybody else is watching. I would have closed it on this day because what did that tell me about my pattern? It wasn't confirming yet. There's nothing there. Now, it might be doing this, but more than likely I'm not going to pay attention to it until it gets back up above the 50, which is about where the fry pan bottom started. Well, yeah, this one, that's tough for me to say because I don't trade Facebook. But if I saw this and they were closing down here, we knew there was earnings, I would have probably closed out the position because they weren't buying after the open. Now, would you expect something like this? No. But the probability factor was if they weren't buying going into the close, that something like this has much greater prospects than if they had been trading up through the 50. How do you define on positive trading at the open? Jim, positive trading, what one were we looking at? Let's just take, positive trading is if I'm ready to buy this on positive trading tomorrow, or let's take a look at Net. Net buying on positive trading, and that also illustrated the fact that the Dow and the NASDAQ were not falling out of bed. On the earnings, on the opening, things seem pretty copacetic, nothing wild going on. That if the market is not doing anything decisive, and this is opening positive, that to me, that's a positive open. Oh, FT, FT, FT. All right. I'm going to go back here real quick. So right now we have no decisive trend movement. If it opens positive, then you've got the prospects of a J-hook bobble breakout. If it opens lower, it's telling us this downtrend is still in progress. The NASDAQ, same scenario. There's no direction. Right? At this point, we cannot say whether they're ready to take it up or take it down or take it sideways. There's nothing. The stochastics aren't helping us. The chart isn't helping us. So at this point, you kind of just sit here and say, all right, I don't do anything until I get much better conviction of what's going on. Currently, the Dow futures are up 27, but that doesn't mean anything at this time of day or night. The only time the futures mean anything is about 10 minutes before the market opens. When you do scans, do you use top-down approach, like from sector to specific stocks, or do you focus on candlestick signals and patterns without considering which sectors are doing good or bad? YM, the 25-word description or less is the first thing I do is I scan for my trading universe of stocks by starting with the stocks that had the biggest percent price move. And I go down that list. And usually within the first 50, if you know what you're looking at, and you become familiar with the signals and patterns, as I go down that list, starting from the one that had the biggest percent price move, by the time I get down to the 50th or 70th stock, I've already found probably 5, 10, 15 good-looking charts. All I've done is flag them, and then I come back and take a look again. Now, in that process, if I am going down that list and I recognize out of the first 50 and out of the first 15 that I flag, 4 of them are trucking stocks, I can pretty well make the assumption that the trucking stocks are probably being bought, and that would be something that I would consider more heavily. Now, I don't have it here right now, but the new TC 2000, I guess the 2020, you can go to the specific sectors and analyze which ones are the strongest, not necessarily the strongest, because some of them may be at the top of their trend, but there might be sectors that are doing J-hook patterns or even sectors doing frypan bottoms. Then what you do is you, on one side of the list, we'll do a scanning session, but it's my first scan is which ones had the biggest percent price move. If I don't find anything real intriguing, then I can go to my scans on which sectors had the biggest percent price moves. And then when I find a sector that looks like it's got a good strong chart to it, over on the other side of the chart will be a list of the stocks in that sector, and I can start going down that list to see which one of those stocks had the strongest chart moves. So it pretty much is basically putting everything in alignment. I hope that wasn't too long an explanation. If the markets are not opening or are opening higher, Bill, I am probably looking at stocks tonight or scanning for stocks tonight, which I'll try to star the ones that I think would be the best ones before the end of the session. that if things are opening positive tomorrow, and let's say we wake up and see that the Dow is going to open up 120 points, well, that pretty much gives me the indication that they're supporting at the T-line and heading higher, which now I can say, well, it looks like they're doing a J-hook, supporting off the T-line with the prospects of eventually doing a bubble breakout. If the pre-market futures are opening lower and I was looking to buy some stocks, so yeah, I'm not going to jump in because it's probably not time to buy. Or I then flip over to the scans that I did for the best short positions. Does that enforce a bullish sentiment? I don't know what that enforces. That implies a bullish sentiment because of the patterns that we recognize. Is futures related to after-hours trading? No. Futures are just people trading the futures. The YMs are the futures for the Dow. And that's what they think things will be doing the next day. So it has nothing to do with any after-hours trading. Now, sometimes it does, like when Amazon gapped way up, yeah, that influenced everybody thinking, oh, things are good again. Let's start buying the futures. On net, if it opens positive, do you buy right at the open or do you wait 5-10 minutes? If I saw the market opening positive and this opening positive, I might wait somewhere between 90 seconds and 5 minutes. If this opens positive and the market opens lower, yeah, I might sit and watch it for 5, 10, 15 minutes to see what the overall market is doing after the open. Let's see. There's a new after-hours trading system in Korea this week, trading. All right. Which scanning tools are the best for this work? Oh, I use Metastock and I use TC2000. So quite often there's the question of, well, doesn't Thinkorswim or TradeStation, don't they have scanning capabilities? They do, but they're not refined or they're not as easy to work with. So you got to remember, somebody that's got a trading platform is putting scanning capabilities on just as an added benefit, not as a refined system. I would rather pay the extra $40 to $90 a month to have a scanning software that not only is it going to work more effectively, but instead of it taking me 30 or 40 minutes to go through scanning processes, it might only take me 10 to 20 minutes using a scanning software. Okay. Whoops. Geez, I'm not scanning fast enough or scrolling fast enough. Eric, okay, everybody hang on to your individual requests until that's all right. Until I tell Jim to do the double line, which I'll probably be addressing a lot of these as we go along, and then if I don't, the market lately has opened positive in whipsaw, also opened down in whipsaw. Well, that's exactly right. So that doesn't become a deterrent. That becomes your analysis of its whipsawing. So I've got to be a lot more careful of which stocks I want to get in, or if I want to get into any stocks. Now, the bottom line to getting in any position still boils down to that final criteria of if we're seeing buy signals, are we still staying above the T line? MDGL, net, you could recognize the J-hook pattern. And we did NVAX, you can recognize the pattern. So if I'm ready to buy this one, it's on the basis that if we didn't have a reversal signal, but now we've got a pattern set up, I'm more apt to buy it on positive trading now because of the J-hook pattern. And what's my return? Well, first target, second target. So I've got at least a 10, maybe a, let's see, that's more like a 15% and 40% upside potential on some of these. IMGO, you can observe the obvious. The T-line's acting as your support. Now the 50 is not acting as resistance. And here's a very important visual analysis is the fact that they bounced off the T-line, which if we keep reiterating that nobody has the T-line on their charts, we have it on there because we know it acts like a natural support and resistance level. Net, just because it has a strong tail to the upside, says, yeah, that could be bad news, but we're in a J-hook pattern. So here's the analysis. We're not in the overbought area. We're doing a J-hook pattern. We're still trading above the 3T line, let alone the T line. Makes it pretty evident that it's still in a bullish move, even though it backed off from its highs. If it trades positive tomorrow, what's it tell us about the profit taking that occurred today? Profit taking's over, the pattern is still working. ITCI, you can see kind of your J-hook pattern. And again, this is, notice where the bullish engulfing signal occurred, right smack dab on the T-line. So here's why analyzing a candlestick chart and knowing what the signals tell you and where they're occurring just dramatically improves your analysis of when a reversal is occurring. Look at your big Morningstar signal right off the 200. What's your next criteria? They closed above the T-line. In this case, they closed above the 50. Once that occurs, what's our next criteria? Well, we could have taken profits right there, figuring they were coming back to the T-line. Or if you didn't sell, what's your next criteria? You wait for a sell signal and a close below the T-line. The T-line has allowed me to sleep much easier at night through the years because as long as it stays above the T-line, you're still in an uptrend. And the patterns that we recognize, this is Las Vegas Sands. Now we've got kind of a bobble breakout, which implies we're still in a good, strong uptrend. The oils, again, we're working well. Halliburton working nicely. As far as the biggies, Netflix is still in a downtrend. Notice how they started off like a gangbuster. Best friend gap up, another big move. Where is your logical stop? It shouldn't come back down through the open of a strong candle. That's not a bullish sign. That's a very bearish sign. Now what do you got going on? You can pretty much see this downtrend resistance level is still in effect. Walter, it did that. And I don't know why it all of a sudden sold off unless the meeting with the German Prime Minister or whatever he is wasn't to the liking of keeping things pacified in Europe. So Yes, the market was acting well. It looked like it was going to be doing kind of a Morningstar bobble breakout potential, and then they sold it off, and that was right there. So, yeah, was that Friday's sell-off? So as you can see, even on the 10-minute chart, is that the 10-minute or the 15-minute? That's the 10-minute chart. But on any intraday chart, you can see where it's going during that time frame. It's just still stuck sideways. If the NASDAQ does open lower tomorrow, you could consider it a bearish J-hook as far as wave 1, wave 2. Now remember, the strength of the downside move was based upon a hanging man gap down. Now, if you take everything into consideration, a hanging man gap down is very bearish. The fact that they closed it below the T-line is even more bearish. Tried to bring it back up, wasn't decisive, and now they've closed it just back below the T-line. What's that kind of imply as far as investor sentiment? Still looks like there's more evidence to downside than there is upside. Now, why is that? People always email and say, is it because of the Ukraine situation? Is it because of inflation? It doesn't matter. I have no idea what it's doing. I'm just seeing that what everybody's sentiment is, it's bearish at this time. Okay. Amazon is a good example that when you spike up and you get pretty close to the first target, that's when you flip to your 10-minute chart. Are you able to refine scans on Metastock based on your own criteria? I've been having trouble to set specific parameters for scans. All I see is predefined expert scans. YM on Metastock? No, our formulas are there. They've got a download where you can download all our stuff. I think it's an add-on fee, but it's their biggest seller is the candlestick scanning software, which does two things. It helps you scan, number one, and if you're still in the learning process of the different signals and patterns, it will actually show you the patterns and signals as they're setting up. And then it will also, when you click on whatever that arrow is, it will describe what that pattern is. So it dramatically improves or speeds up your learning process. So check with Metastock's service people. They are very, very, very good to work with. Apple. A rhetorical question. Which direction is Apple moving right now? Have no earthly idea. Wouldn't be trading Apple. So what you do want to be trading whoops, something happened here. Did it again? Oh, it's over here. No, that's GLS. Nice J-hook pattern. Where would you suspect the next target to be? Probably at the top of the channel. GDRX. Nice J-hook pattern right off the T-line. Where would you suspect the next target to be, at least back up to the 50. The reason I'm pointing these out is you know, or you should know, or you can know what the prospects are. If this opens down here tomorrow, you don't pay attention to it. If it opens here, you know that they're confirming the J-hook pattern. That's when you could be buying. STNG, J-hook pattern. They came up through the 50. Where do you think the next likely target is going to be? So again, I keep stressing this isn't rocket science. This is just basically understanding what signals and patterns occur in human nature. All we're doing is identifying them and taking advantage of the information built into those patterns. This one was more compelling earlier in the day. RNW. Right now it's just so-so. And PRBV, there's a J-hook pattern that came up through the 50. Could put this in the bobble breakout category, but I would suspect the 200 is your next likely target. And Omar, oh, there's your J-hook, there's your fry pan bottom, there's your breakout, or at least the breach of your 50. I wouldn't be afraid to be buying this one based upon this pattern with the expectation they'll probably be coming back up to the top of that fry pan bottom, which gives you a good 15% upside just to get to the breakout level. Now these I picked up. There's kind of a bobble breakout on Rio. There was kind of a bobble breakout on RIG. I'd still be buying this one on positive trading, meaning if it comes back up through this level tomorrow, I'd be a buyer. And the big price moves, notice what this chart is telling us. There's our little kind of J-hook pattern, kind of what I call a stutter step. They started up, there's your morning star signal, your best friend type signal, pull back, morning star signal, there's your breakout. I would suspect coming up back up to this level. Yes, that's a fry pan bottom on Omar. Seed, that's your left-right combo gap up. Now here's again, if I had seen this today, and I would say I bought in here for some reason, which would have been a function of the 10-minute chart. So if I was buying right here, what told me to stay in this all day long? The fact that that it stayed above the T line. Where might I have taken profits? Right there was also telling me we hit at the 50, or let's do it the other way around. As soon as it hit the 50, and I saw that type of signal, I might start taking it off the table just because we could see immediately when it hit that level, people were starting to take profits. So again, that's just putting 2 plus 2 together. Where is everybody else selling or planning to take profits? Well, we can see that distinctly on the 10-minute chart. Same scenario here. Nice little fry pan bottom breakout, and when I say breakout, look where the fry pan bottom started, and they gapped up through that level. So these are days where when you get that exuberance people ask, well, how do we know when to take profits? If you're that far away from the T-line and you start seeing this on your 10-minute chart, take some off the table. That means they've started selling. So this is nothing magical. This is things that have saved my butt quite a few times. Is when you can see you're way up here, look how far away you are from the T-line. That should be a mental alert immediately to say, all right, I better watch my 10-minute chart. This is your message confirmation. Fry pan bottom. Profit taking. Then they open up positive the next day and start taking it back up. There's your message. There's your confirmation. I would suspect that still has a lot more upside. Which was somewhat along this same lines right here. There was your message. And remember what the definition of a message is. Even though that's not a pretty candle for a bullish candle, the message was they gapped this up, and then there was profit taking. Well, the fact that they gapped that up told us that there was lots of buying power coming in. Then there's profit taking. So what's our trading strategy? We want to see when that profit taking is over and that strong buying continues. Fitbit is a good example of observe the obvious. When you start seeing there's your morning star signal, right smack dab off the 50 up through the T-line, that's a pretty good indication that was a support level. You can start buying that one. Somebody pointed that one out today in the chat room. Oyster. Morning star signal. You could get ready to start buying this one on positive trading. And I just want to kind of confirm that oysters don't work. Last night I had a dozen oysters and only 6 of them worked. Another confirmation that the T-line was acting as support with a inverted hammer, J-hook pattern, breakout. I must have been looking at this one earlier. Let's remove. Oh, maybe that is the moving average, the 200. But that one I wouldn't be afraid to be buying on positive trading tomorrow. AMTX, that would be the implication that there's a fry pan bottom starting to set up. Wouldn't be afraid to be buying this one. Wouldn't want to see it close back below the T-line. FYBR, there's your best friend. Where do you think your next likely target is? Probably at least back up to the 50. The reason I always point out a best friend is not only is the probabilities extremely high that you're going to be in an uptrend, but the magnitude of that uptrend is going to be extremely strong. There's your bobble breakout with a gap up. Another one that I would probably be buying excessively, that's not the right word, aggressively on positive trading, because there's your fry pan bottom, there's your bobble breakout. At least figure your first target is up here to the recent highs. and possibly higher. I'm putting a little star next to that one. SDIG, another one that has based. You could buy this one with the anticipation they're coming back up to the 50. Now when I look at it and say, all right, if it goes from 10 to 290, that's a 29%, or 1290, that's a 29% return. That's a decent rate of return, especially on a chart pattern that you can identify what's going on. The cruise lines were up strong today. There's Carnival. Royal Caribbean wasn't as strong. It's still not out of this trading range. And Norwegian Cruise Lines, nice big strong morning star signal. That one I wouldn't be afraid to be buying on positive trading tomorrow. On the short side, you can see the bearish flutter kicker signal that occurred in MasterCard. That is, first of all, the first indication to get out of a trade if you're long is when they gap it down near or at the previous day's open, especially up in the overbought area. Close it out immediately. The probabilities are now extremely strong. They're heading down. The fact that they did a bearish flutter kicker says that's now becomes a good short. Fastenal. Wave 1, Wave 2. Why is this a significant Wave 3 confirmation? Because they didn't hold this level. That's telling us we've got the prospects of Wave 3 heading much lower. And Sunoco, that's a strong sell signal, even though the other oils were up strong. That's showing a lot of weakness. That best friend gap down. Shooting star gap down. Another one you could probably go short. AKE, no. AZEK. Look where your reversals occurred. Your doji confirmation. Your best friend doji confirmation. Your best friend doji confirmation. So where would you want to short this one? If it started trading right down through this level, you've got Wave 1, Wave 2. How did Wave 3 start? With your bearish best friend. Probably a good, strong indication that Wave 3 to the downside is now working well. Oh, I forgot where I was. CBEV. We did that one. Not found. Now, what is that? Well, for crying out loud, how can I not have written down that correctly? So MTRX is just a good example that when they do a sell signal or sell off after hitting a resistance level and then gap down after that, that tells you they still want out of this one pretty bad. So you could even short this one if it opened lower, because now you'd have a bearish doji sandwich that's telling you this level right here is not acting as support anymore. Okay, and then we had things like DWAC that was doing great guns, and this is something you can't ever anticipate, that today, when everything was going great, they announced, I guess, that The SEC is going to try to block the merger between the Trump radio station, I guess, and DWAC. So that may have taken the wind out of that sails. So unfortunately, all that tells you is, nah, maybe we have to get out of that trade and go on to something else. Yeah, it didn't show any warning. I mean, the warning came from the fact that all of a sudden, bam, I think somebody said the announcement came out at 3:49. So in the next 10 minutes, they really slammed it. Okay, I guess that's about all I got for tonight. Gold, as you can see, is still heading up. That's not the one I want. Silver's starting back up. All right, so are there any general questions on candlesticks tonight? Doesn't look like it. So Jim, I guess go ahead and do the double line. And in 3.6 seconds, do the next double line. Hut, you could buy this one on positive trading. Expect the 50-day moving average to be your next likely target. Very, same thing, but it just has to open positive tomorrow. If it opens lower and trades lower, I would be out of it if I was in it. Tyson Foods. You could. I'm going to check Tyson Foods over here. Yeah. So apparently that was earnings. I would suspect a 45-degree off of here. QuantumScape tried to get up through the T-line today, or stay up. If this opens lower tomorrow, you close it out and wait for the next buy signal. Chewy. That needed to see bullish confirmation today. No, Harry, I wouldn't short it, but I wouldn't be long. That's kind of a nothing chart. Alcoa, if you're long, or if you're thinking of going long, I would be a buyer up through the high, or at least up through today's open. If it opens lower, you're still going to be stuck sideways. Checks, that's a good chart. Just make sure your volume is big on a 67-cent chart. You want to see millions traded in that. Coin, you could be buyer of this one. At least figure on right here to fill the gap. Tim, if this opens positive, yes, you can go after it. If it opens lower, you're going to have to watch to see if they're going to support back on the 50. So it definitely needs positive trading tomorrow. Upstart, yep, if you're short, stay short. Dragonfly. That one you could be buying. Again, make sure your volume is good. Oh boy, this almost looks like your cup and handle or your classic pattern. You can be buying this one on strength. Use the T-line as your stop. Blue, J-hook pattern. I would just stick with this one. PWSC. That's a nice bobble breakout. Power School Holdings. That is a good looking chart. We did MasterCard. MasterCard you can go short because of the bearish flutter kicker signal. Las Vegas Sands broke through the 200 today. Bobble breakout. You could buy this one on strength. Weibo. You can go short on this one. You can see the dumpling top setting up. PayPal. Stay short. Put spot today. Yeah, you're probably all right. Yeah, you're probably going to be all right. Las Vegas Sands, yes, you could buy this on positive trading. And then just don't let it close back below the T-line. Lowe's, stay short. Home Depot, stay short. Toll Brothers, stay short, but it needs to open lower. And Beazer Home, same thing. Seed, you can buy on positive trading. Now your next watch would be to see that it gets up through the 50. Merck, stay short. Or you could think about going short if it opens below the 50 tomorrow, kind of giving you a double top. Definitely in a downtrend. Myra, you could buy this one on positive trading. And I say could, it's going to be a function of how they open the markets tomorrow. VLDR. VLDR after hours closed at 6:15 up here. Yep, so yeah, first of all, you want to see what the news was. And then if you're planning on buying, it pretty much needs to open positive tomorrow. Hood, boy, I would have closed it out with it closing back below the T-line today. You can always buy it back if it came back up. And this one, you just stay long. I don't know if it's doing anything after hours. Yeah, it's up 15 cents after hours. I would still suspect right here as the fry pan bottom started, which puts you right around 11. That's the first target. If it breaks through there, then you're heading for 15. D-Dog. Earnings before market Thursday. Why the question mark? Would definitely need to see it trade positive. If it opens lower, it's probably coming back down to test the T-line, which means you're going to be in this type of trend at best. See, we did Weibo. Weibo, you can go short. Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble, nothing. You're in a sideways wedge or sideways mode, and Procter & Gamble, your quintessential institutional trader, there's just no direction to it. That's a nice breakout. Look at your trend kicker signal. So here's a perfect example of if you were long or if you were thinking of going long and it opened down here and you don't do anything with it until it comes back up through that level. That produces an extremely high probability trade setup. We did GDOG, QCOM. Anytime you see something open and close below the previous day's open, close it out. Now you're probably more apt to go short on this one. Square, stay short as long as it stays below the T-line. JP Morgan, just stay long. Disney, if you're long or thinking of going long, it definitely needs to open positive. If it opens lower tomorrow, you've got kind of a nothing chart. RKLB, you could buy this one on positive trading. Your J-hook pattern, doji sandwich. First of all, you want to break this downtrend, which would kind of equate toward the 34. And then your next target would be up to the 50. But it would definitely need to see a positive open tomorrow. Roku, kind of a nothing chart right now. Wouldn't be long or short. And Siri, I would just stay long, but I wouldn't want to see it close below the halfway point of this candle because that was the last candle telling us the bulls are in control. If they close back below this level, you're sideways. On positive trading, yes. I'd be more apt to buy it if it came back up through today's open. Silver you can buy in positive trading. AG, you could. It's not your best looking chart as far as the golds. I would go through the gold list. I can. Gold. AGI, I want to see that get up through the, see if there's any. IAG, that looks more promising. GLDG, that looks, has a more compelling chart to it. Getting a little bit toppy, obviously. If it opened lower tomorrow, they're coming back to test the T-line. I would probably take profits. John, this I would not put into the trading category. We started buying some over the last few days. But this one is more of a story stock, with the story being if they ever get more refinement on their solid-state lithium battery, you're probably looking at 50, 100, 150. I mean, there's no upside target that wouldn't be viable. NVAX you can buy on positive trading. That's not what we want. NVAX you can buy on positive trading, completing your J-hook pattern. Joey, the best friend signal. Darn, I can't remember. A best friend signal is your doji followed by a gap up. Your kicker signal, I don't have a kicker signal. A kicker signal is a dark candle. Then the next day they open it at that open and go positive. It kicks things in the opposite direction. I'll see if I can find one. ENPH, another J-hook pattern that definitely has to open positive tomorrow. Otherwise, if it opens lower, you're back to a sideways, nothing fantastic. Morningstar signal, you can get ready to buy this one on positive trading, HILO. Okay, so Amazon did buy their warrants, all right. Disney earnings on the 9th, okay. Tyson Foods is a kicker. Opened here, closed here, gapped up, and went the opposite direction. I missed the jump around 22 and entered late. What was that on, John? Okay, now the Dow futures are down 11. On QuantumScape, again, we're buying this on QuantumScape because of the technology. So we did buy long-term way back here, but then we closed it out. Not because we were not holding it for long-term, but because we figured you could buy it back at a better price. NVIDIA, you can stay long on this one, the J-hook pattern in progress. IRNT looks somewhat like a fry pan bottom. You could be buying this one, probably on strength, getting it through at least that level. Yes, NVIDIA, you could buy on positive trading, anticipating a J-hook pattern, and then just don't let it close back below the T-line. Okay, I guess we got everybody taken care of. It will be important to see how they open the markets tomorrow. If they open it lower, just assume what the charts make as obvious, that they failed at the 50. They're still in possibly a bearish J-hook pattern in the Dow, and the NASDAQ have a sell signal that was strong, and they haven't brought it back up above the T-line. So I thought we did D-Dog. D-Dog needs to open positive to stay in it. If it opens lower after failing at the 50, that means they're coming back to the T-line. Darren, no, I keep calling them and telling them I'm a relative, but they just don't go for it. Okay, everybody. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll see you then. And ISEE and AZEK for the short. And I'll have to figure out a couple more. All right. Thank you, Will. All right.